The Legend of Korra may not be everyone's cup of tea, but in my opinion, it gave me a visual on what maturity looks like. As we grow older, we start to see the world in a different light. It's no longer just about ourselves. We want to make an impact on the world around us and better understand ourselves. Throughout Korra's journey, we see this firsthand. It's a long road, but it's a beautiful road to walk. Let's take a deeper look into Korra's story to see how she grows into a more kind and patient individual. When we first meet Korra, she's stubborn, brash, and very self-centered. I mean, she's 17 years old, living a sheltered life away from human contact, so what do you expect? She has no friends besides her polar bear dog, and all her teachers think she's too unruly, except for Katara, who thinks she's a kindred spirit. Korra yearns for independence away from the White Lotus, but still is content with staying at the South Pole. It's not until Tenzin says no to training Korra that her rebellious side shines through, making her sneak off to go to Republic City. Within this new environment, Korra is clueless about how the world works. Her arrogance about being the Avatar is what gets her into trouble more often than not. Don't get me wrong, she has a good heart, like when she saves the shopkeeper from the triple threat triads. But in the process, she does smash up a whole street, which doesn't really sit well with Lin Beifong, chief of police. When training airbending with Tenzin, we see more of Korra's hot-headedness. She's an individual that reacts rather than listens. In the early seasons of the show, this is Korra's biggest flaw. Her emotions are what make her impatient. When something like airbending doesn't come easy, she moves on to something that she is good at, like pro-bending, which is where the bulk of her problems lie. Because with pro-bending comes Mako. Korra, for some reason, has a crush on him, which makes her more judgmental and jealous when Asami comes into the picture. Again, using emotions over listening to fully understand what Asami is all about. However, when Korra does learn more about Asami, they learn that they have more in common with each other than either of them did with Mako. I'm sorry, that was really savage, but it's 100% true though. You know what? Let's just move on from the whole love triangle thing. With Republic City, there is a lot of politics to deal with, within the council and with Amon. For Korra, this side of Republic City overwhelms her, which makes people like Tarlok more likely to take advantage of Korra in this way, forcing her to join a task force she didn't even want to join in the first place. Tarlok's ruthless ways of intimidating people through bending are kind of the same thing we see with Korra, like when she goes to fight Tarlok to get her friends out of jail, or when she challenges Amon to a fight. When dealing with her enemies, she likes to deal with them alone. She's stubborn and doesn't like to ask for help, even when others could easily do so. She doesn't like to be perceived as weak. This is why she relies so heavily on earth and firebending when she fights. Even when she learns how to airbend, she uses her strength to make powerful air gusts so that Amon falls out of a window. With that being said, Korra kind of defeats Amon out of sheer dumb luck, but anyways, after he's defeated, her other bending abilities are still severed. With all her friends and family there to support her, Korra leaves to be alone because she thinks she's no longer the Avatar, no longer important. At this point, her self-worth is tied to the title. When she feels she's lost everything, her spiritual side comes out to say, when we hit our lowest point, we are open to the greatest change. Oh man, Korra, you don't even know the half of this statement. Personality-wise, Korra is still the same stubborn individual who doesn't like to listen to anyone. Not Tenzin, not her father, and definitely not Mako. That lack of a guiding hand is apparent, because most of the time, Korra adventures out alone, pushing everyone close to her away in the process. It's understandable, this is a hard time for her tribe and her personal life, but it makes Korra brasher when there is no one to calm her down. It's not a good look for her. Once she's knocked out by a dark spirit, she starts to become more understanding and willing to listen. not only to others, but herself as well. She understands the importance of her spiritual side, her connection to Rava, how being the Avatar is much bigger than just knowing how to bend 4 elements. With all this crushing weight on top of her, she goes to the person that will most likely understand her predicament, Tenzin. With this, she finally learns to ask for help. In doing so, she has to look after another person. The best example of this is when she goes to the spirit world with Jinora. Just like in book 1, she's easily angered, and her anger upsets the spirits, which causes her to get separated from Jinora. With some advice from Iroh, Korra learns to listen more and react less, understanding that her mood can help shift her attitude in a positive and negative way, depending on her outlook on the situation. This lesson from Iroh is something she holds on to for the rest of her journey. The most important lesson comes later. In her final fight with Unalaq and Vaatu, she loses Rava's connection to the past avatars. Korra feels like she's lost the most important piece of herself. Just like in book 1, she feels unimportant and alone. However, this time, Tenzin is there to step in and advise her, telling her that Rava isn't what makes her important. Her own inner spirit is what makes her special. This gives Korra the confidence in herself to beat Unalaq and save the day. In the end, she learns from her past, but also understands the importance of forging your own path. This is why she decides to keep the spirit portals open so that spirits and humans can live in harmony. After harmonic convergence, the world has entered a new age. However, with change comes backlash. This is exactly what Korra gets from keeping the portals open. The press is still something that Korra is not so good at handling, especially when it comes to dealing with President Raiko, who is always pushing the blame on Korra whenever he can, which frustrates her because she doesn't have answers to give to the enraged people of Republic City. Instead of being angry and hot-headed about the situation like we see in prior seasons, she feels small and unheard, but calmly determined to fix the problem. Her determination grows when she learns that new airbenders are popping up around the world. The end of book 2 really helped build Korra's confidence as well. She doesn't avoid things that she's bad at, she at least tries them, like when Asami teaches Korra how to drive. Speaking of Asami, this book makes her more of a support for Korra, listening and advising Korra when her emotions start to spiral out of control. It's nice to see someone other than Tenzin advise Korra for a change. Don't get me wrong, Korra still has her moments where she blows up at people, but they're far less frequent. The biggest change to Korra's personality has to come from her outlook on life. She's no longer self-centered. In fact, she's the exact opposite, so much so that it can be looked upon as a flaw. With the new airbenders, Korra will stop at nothing to protect them, even when her safety is at risk from Zahir and the other Red Lotus members. Zahir is unlike any enemy that Korra has faced before. He's calm, he's calculated, and understanding. The Red Lotus goes against everything that she stands for, and it scares her. This fear is way different than what she experienced with Amon in book 1. It's fear over a way of thinking rather than one single person. When the Earth Queen is taken down, Korra's fears become a reality. Seeing the chaos consume the Earth Kingdom frustrates her, knowing that it was her fault for letting it happen. With Zahir going after the airbenders next, Korra is between a rock and a hard place, because she's clueless on what to do. Does she stand and fight as she would normally, or does she give herself up to save the Air Nation? Taking advice from both Iroh and Zuko, Korra knows what she has to do. Stop fighting and give herself up. At this moment, Korra becomes a selfless individual who understands the importance of saving others. However, her fears on the Red Lotus's ways of thinking comes back when Zahir threatens her life and the cycle of the Avatar. She has a brief moment where she feels they're right. I mean, she is hallucinating from all the poison they just pumped into her body, but still though. Korra feels that maybe the world would be better without an avatar. Down on her luck, the poison takes over and Korra is pushed into the avatar state out of her control. Just as Zahir is about to take Korra's final breath away from her, Jinora and the Air Nation step in to save her. With that, Zahir is defeated, but it comes at a cost of Korra's mental and physical health. The poison took a great toll on Korra's mental health, and even after 3 years, she still struggles with the trauma. During the 3-year gap, Korra struggles with feeling physically broken from her injuries. The spark she had at the beginning of the series is gone, and so is her outlook on life. She feels empty and useless. Her freedom and independence are stripped away. She has to sit back and watch her friends save the world without her. Once Korra is physically back on her feet, thanks to Katara, Korra feels like she's back to her old self, wanting to get back into training. However, the fight with Zahir still haunts her, and she feels worthless once more, feeling like she'll never fully recover from the mental trauma. This causes her to turn away from her duties as the Avatar altogether. I know, this was a small synopsis of Korra alone. There is a lot that goes on in this episode. I want to give this episode the time it deserves, so we'll cover it in depth in another video. Anyways, turning away from her past, Korra runs into Toph in the swamps of the Earth Kingdom. Toph helps Korra see the hard truth of why she doesn't want to go back to being the Avatar. If Korra goes back to her duties, she feels like she's just going to get hurt again. Korra doesn't like feeling vulnerable, which is why she has trouble getting that last bit of metal poison out of her body. Toph also teaches Korra the importance of learning from her past enemies, which later helps her understand Kuvira's point of view. With these wise words from Toph, Korra is ready to bend the metal out of her and reconnect with the world. However, this doesn't mean that Korra is fully healed. She's still unsure of herself and afraid of using the Avatar state altogether. Kuvira sees this and easily defeats her. At this moment, the world sees Korra as a weakling and doesn't know if she'll ever fully recover. With the help of Asami and Tenzin, Korra understands the world will always have conflicts. To better understand them, we need to stay open-minded and learn from our past demons. Looking towards the future, Korra's spark of determination to find balance comes back to light, which gives her the confidence to confront Zahir, to tell him that she's not afraid anymore. That doesn't really work. She still has fear over almost dying, which is why she's unable to go into the spirit world. Although they don't see eye to eye, Zahir helps Korra release the fear and enter the spirit world once more, finding her connection with Rava in the process. At this moment, Korra is more in touch with herself than she ever was before. She won't ever forgive Zahir for what he's done, but she's ready to move on and accept that it's in the past. Traumas happen, but we have to work through them to become stronger than we were before. In the end, Korra beats Kuvira, but not in the previous means. She doesn't beat Kuvira up, she saves her, and in the process creating a new spirit portal. Korra sees how similar she and Kuvira are, helping Kuvira understand her wrongdoings of creating a dictatorship. Korra embraces the idea of change and finds balance in both her spirit and body. Out of the darkness, Korra finds the light, and with that becomes a more compassionate individual. Korra's journey is a long and winding road that has bumps along the way, but she learns that those bumps are what makes her who she is. Maturity is all about finding balance within oneself, to grow as an individual and help others around us. I'm grateful to the Legend of Korra for teaching me this. But hey, that's just what I think. Thank you guys so much for sticking around for this long video. Let me know what you guys think of Korra and her journey in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, you may enjoy this one about Azula, or you can check out the whole playlist here. Hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.